The night was heavy with silence as Emily sat at her kitchen table, a single lamp casting a warm circle of light. Her journal lay open in front of her, but she couldn't find the words. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Vanessa's cruel smile, the icy blast of the extinguisher, Daniel's cold whisper. Then, like a spark in the darkness, a memory surfaced. The office, the boardroom, the cameras. Daniel's company had surveillance in every hallway and office for security reasons. Surely, the attack had been caught on video. Her pulse quickened. If she could get that footage, she would finally have proof, undeniable proof, that Daniel and Vanessa weren't just liars but criminals. Emily grabbed her phone, her hands trembling as she dialed the building's security office. The line clicked. "Carter Holdings Security," a gruff voice answered. "This is Emily Carter," she said quickly. "I need access to the security footage from Daniel's office. From 2 days ago, around 9 in the morning. It's urgent." There was a pause on the other end. Too long. Finally, the guard cleared his throat. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Carter. That footage is unavailable." Her stomach dropped. "Unavailable? What does that mean?" "The system malfunctioned. That day's files were lost. Nothing we can do." The guard's tone was flat, rehearsed. Emily's voice cracked. "You expect me to believe every single camera failed on the exact morning I was attacked?" "Ma'am," the guard said, a little sharper now, "that's all I can tell you. Good night." The line went dead. Emily sat frozen, her phone slipping from her fingers. It was too perfect, too neat. Daniel had gotten to them first. He had erased the only evidence that could save her. Tears blurred her vision, but fury burned hotter than grief. She whispered to herself, "No, there has to be another copy. Someone has it." The next day, Emily forced herself back to the Carter Holdings tower. Every step into that building felt like walking into enemy territory. Vanessa's voice echoed from the reception desk as she laughed with a group of employees, her presence bold and unashamed. Emily avoided her gaze, keeping her head down as she slipped into the lower levels, where security offices were kept. Inside, she found the young IT technician who had always been kind to her in passing. His name was Peter. She caught him in the hallway and whispered urgently, "Peter, please, I need your help." "The footage from Daniel's office, it was deleted, wasn't it?" Peter's eyes darted nervously. He glanced over his shoulder before whispering back, "I shouldn't talk about this. Mrs. Carter, I could lose my job." Emily clutched his sleeve, desperation spilling from her voice. "Peter, they attacked me. They tried to kill me and my baby. You saw me in that hospital. Please? You're the only one who can help." Peter hesitated, then leaned closer. "There was footage. I saw it, but the file was wiped from the server that same afternoon. Daniel's assistant brought in an outside tech team. They didn't just delete it, they destroyed the backups too." Emily's heart pounded. "So it's gone? Forever?" Peter swallowed hard. "Maybe not forever. I made a private copy, just in case that. But if they find out I have it..." Emily's breath caught, hope igniting in her chest. "Please, Peter, that video could save my life." He shook his head, pale with fear. "I'll think about it. I need time." He walked away quickly, leaving Emily trembling in the dim hallway. And just as she turned to leave, she froze. Vanessa stood at the end of the corridor, arms crossed, a knowing smile on her face. "Looking for something, sweetheart?" The hallway seemed to shrink as Vanessa's heels clicked against the polished floor. Emily instinctively stepped back, her body tense, one arm protecting her belly. The cruel smirk spreading across Vanessa's face made it clear she had seen everything. Well, Vanessa purred, folding her arms, creeping around the office like a thief, begging the help for scraps. Pathetic, really. Emily's throat tightened, but she forced herself to stand straighter. "I know what you did, Vanessa. You attacked me. You tried to kill my baby. That footage proves it." Vanessa's laugh was low, mocking. "Footage?" She leaned closer, her perfume suffocating. "Oh, honey, do you really think Daniel would let something like that exist? Every copy is gone. And anyone dumb enough to keep one, well, let's just say they won't have it for long." Emily's pulse raced. "Peter. If Daniel found out about the technician's backup, Peter would be in danger too." "You think you're so clever," Vanessa continued, circling her like a predator. "But the truth is, you're finished. Everyone already believes you're unstable. A jealous wife lashing out because her husband doesn't want her anymore. That's the story. And it's delicious, isn't it?" Emily's eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. "You may have him now, Vanessa. but you'll never win. One day, the truth will come out." Vanessa tilted her head, feigning pity. "Sweetheart, the truth doesn't matter. Perception does. And the world sees you as a desperate, hormonal mess who can't keep her man. I mean, look at you. Rumpled clothes, puffy eyes, waddling around like some tragic character. Do you really think anyone looks at you and sees strength?" The words sliced deeper than any blade. Emily's lips trembled, her silence feeding Vanessa's triumph. Vanessa leaned close, her whisper venomous. "I'm the future, Emily. I'm the one Daniel wants by his side. You're just the footnote, a soon-to-be ex-wife who will be lucky to even keep visitation rights." Emily felt her knees weaken, her heart pounding painfully against her ribs. She wanted to scream, to fight, but the humiliation pressed down on her chest like a weight too heavy to bear. Vanessa straightened, smoothing her designer blouse with smug satisfaction. "Do yourself a favor," she said lightly. "Sign the divorce papers. Walk away quietly. At least then, you'll have a shred of dignity left. Otherwise, Daniel will crush you, and I'll enjoy every second of it." She turned to leave, her heels echoing in triumph. But just before stepping into the elevator, she glanced back over her shoulder, her voice cutting through the silence. "Oh, and Emily, when the baby comes, don't expect Daniel to show up. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about it. All he cares about is me." The elevator doors closed with a sharp ding, sealing the moment like a coffin. Emily stood frozen, her chest heaving, tears spilling down her cheeks. Every word replayed in her mind, twisting like knives. For the first time, she wondered if Vanessa was right, if she was truly alone in this war. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, snapping her out of the spiral. She pulled it out with shaking hands. A message glowed on the screen from an unknown number. "I have something you need. Meet me tonight? Don't tell anyone." Emily's breath caught. Was this a trap, or her one chance at survival? And as she stared at the message, she didn't notice the small security camera above the hallway, watching, recording, sending every move straight to Daniel. The house was dark when Emily returned that night. The silence pressed down like a heavy blanket, suffocating her. She kicked off her shoes at the door, each step dragging as if the weight of Vanessa's words clung to her skin. Upstairs, in the nursery she had carefully decorated, the pale yellow walls and tiny crib mocked her. The room that was supposed to be filled with laughter now felt like a tomb of broken promises. She sank onto the rocking chair, her hands trembling as she traced the soft edge of a baby blanket. Her heart ached so deeply it was almost physical, the kind of pain that seeped into her bones. Tears welled up until her vision blurred, and for the first time she didn't try to stop them. She whispered to the empty room, her voice shaking. "What am I doing? How can I protect you when I can't even protect myself?" Her words cracked, her chest heaving as sobs poured out, raw, ugly, uncontrollable. It wasn't just grief. It was despair. The kind that made the walls close in, that made her wonder if Daniel and Vanessa were right, if she truly had no fight left in her. After what felt like hours, she reached for the worn leather journal she had kept since college. The pages were stained with old ink, old dreams, old hopes she once had for her life. She opened to a blank page and gripped the pen like it was her last lifeline. Her handwriting trembled across the paper. "Daniel thinks I'm weak. Vanessa thinks I'm irrelevant. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm just a shell of who I once was. I feel invisible, erased, worthless. I don't know if I can keep going. But when I feel your little kicks, baby, I remember. You're still here. You're fighting. And if you can fight in there, maybe I can fight out here. For you. For us." Her tears stained the page, blurring the words. She pressed the journal against her chest, clutching it as if it could keep her heart from shattering completely. Suddenly, a sharp noise startled her, a crash downstairs. Emily froze, her breath caught in her throat. The sound of glass breaking echoed through the silence. She whispered to herself, "It's just the wind. Maybe something fell." But deep down, fear gripped her like a vice. She stood slowly, one hand on her belly, the other gripping the pen like a weapon. Cautiously, she crept down the stairs, her heart pounding in her ears. The living room light flickered from a broken lamp on the floor, shards of glass scattered across the carpet. Then she saw it, the back door ajar, swinging slightly with the night breeze. Someone had been inside. Emily's knees buckled, her entire body trembling. She staggered back, her breath ragged. She wasn't safe here. Not anymore. The sound of her phone buzzing in her pocket nearly made her scream. She pulled it out with shaking hands. Another message lit up the screen from the same unknown number as before. I told you not to wait. Meet me now, or it will be too late. Emily's blood turned cold. Whoever this was knew something, maybe even the evidence she needed. But was it help or a trap Daniel had set? And as she stood frozen in the dark, a shadow moved outside the window, tall, deliberate, watching her every move. Emily hadn't slept at all. The broken lamp still lay scattered across the living room floor, a haunting reminder that someone had been inside her house. She sat curled on the couch, clutching her journal like armor, her eyes swollen from crying. Morning light spilled weakly through the blinds, but it brought no comfort. The doorbell rang. She jolted upright, fear shooting through her veins. Slowly, she crept to the door, her hand hovering over the knob. "Who is it?" she called, her voice shaky. "It's Michael Lewis," a deep voice answered. Her heart skipped. Michael, the CEO she hadn't seen in years, the man who had once been her friend during college. Carefully, she opened the door, keeping the chain latch on. He stood there in a tailored suit, his expression softer than she remembered, but his eyes sharp with concern. "Emily," he said quietly, "I heard things about you, about Daniel. Can I come in?" She hesitated, torn between relief and suspicion. Finally, she unlatched the door. "Make it quick," she whispered. Michael stepped inside, his gaze immediately sweeping the broken glass. His jaw tightened. "What happened here?" Emily folded her arms, trying to mask her trembling. "Daniel happened. Vanessa happened. They're trying to erase me." Michael turned to face her fully. "I believe you." The words nearly broke her. After days of isolation, of being painted as hysterical, someone finally believed her. Her knees buckled and she sank into the couch, burying her face in her hands. "Everyone thinks I'm crazy. The media, my friends, even the nurses at the hospital. Daniel controls everything." Michael sat across from her, leaning forward. "Not everything. I've been watching him, Emily. His numbers don't add up. His company's finances are a mess, and I know he's hiding something. But I needed more. Now, after seeing you like this, I can't stay silent anymore." Emily lifted her tear-streaked face. "If I fight him, I'll lose. He has the lawyers, the money, the influence. He said he'll take my baby from me." Michael's eyes darkened with resolve. "Then he hasn't met me and Andrew at full force. We don't just run companies, Emily. We dismantle men like Daniel for sport. But I need you to be brave, stronger than you've ever been, because once we start, there's no turning back." Her lips trembled. "I don't know if I can." Michael leaned closer, his voice steady but fierce. "Yes, you can. You already survived what he did to you. That makes you stronger than him, stronger than her. You're not alone anymore." Emily clutched her belly, feeling a tiny kick in response, as if her child was reminding her she had something worth fighting for. For the first time in weeks, a spark of hope flickered in her chest. Michael stood, straightening his suit. "I'll bring Andrew in. We'll go through Daniel's finances, his contracts, everything. If he's covering up fraud, we'll find it. And when we do, we'll take him down legally and publicly." Emily nodded slowly, the weight of despair easing ever so slightly. "Thank you, Michael. I don't know what I'd do without this." He gave her a reassuring smile. "You won't have to find out." But before the moment could settle, Emily's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen, and her blood ran cold. A new message, this time with an attached photo. It was of her nursery upstairs, taken just hours ago while she wasn't home. The text read, "You can't protect the baby. Sign the papers, or next time it won't just be a picture." 2 days later, Emily woke to the sound of her phone buzzing nonstop. Dozens of notifications filled the screen. Texts, emails, social media alerts. Confused, she clicked on the first link a friend had sent. Her stomach twisted as the headline glared back at her. "Emily Carter, pregnant wife spirals out of control, endangers unborn child." Her hands shook as she read the article. It painted her as violent, unstable, unhinged by jealousy. It claimed she had stormed Daniel's office in a rage, attacked Vanessa, and even threatened her own baby during a breakdown. The piece quoted anonymous sources inside the company, people who claimed to have seen Emily screaming and smashing objects. Tears blurred her vision. None of it was true. Yet the photos plastered alongside the article, images of her leaving the hospital, her face pale and swollen, were real. The world didn't need proof. It needed a story. And Daniel had given them one. The phone rang again. This time it was her mother. Emily hesitated before answering. "Mom? Emily," her mother's voice was trembling. "What am I reading? These articles, are they true? Did you really—" "No," Emily cried, her voice breaking. "Mom, please, none of it's true. He's twisting everything. He's trying to take the baby from me." But the silence on the other end was worse than shouting. "Emily," her mother finally whispered, "you've always been emotional. I just hope you're getting the help you need." Then the line went dead. Emily dropped the phone, her chest tightening as if the walls themselves were closing in. Daniel hadn't just turned strangers against her. He was turning her family, her friends, everyone she loved. Meanwhile, in his penthouse office, Daniel watched the news coverage with satisfaction. Vanessa sat beside him, sipping champagne, her laughter like nails on glass. "It's working. Look at her. She's drowning in shame," Daniel smirked. "Good. By the time I'm done, she'll be nothing but a memory. The courts won't give custody to a woman branded as unstable, and once I have the child, Emily will disappear quietly." Across town, Michael and Andrew Lewis sat in their own office, scrolling through the same headlines. Michael slammed his fist onto the desk. "He's destroying her in plain sight. We can't let this continue." Andrew frowned, his analytical mind at work. Smear campaigns are smokescreens. He's hiding something bigger. The timing, the precision, it's too polished. While the world watches Emily, he's covering his tracks somewhere else. Michael leaned back, frustration boiling in his chest. "Then we dig deeper. Harder. If he wants a war in the media, fine, but we'll bring the fight to the courtroom." That night, Emily sat alone on the bathroom floor, the cold tiles pressing against her skin. She hugged her knees, rocking slightly, tears dripping silently. She thought of the baby, of the tiny heartbeat she had heard on the ultrasound. The world saw her as weak, broken. But inside, a faint ember still glowed. She whispered to her unborn child, "They can call me crazy. They can say I'm nothing. But you'll know the truth, and I will fight for you until my last breath." Just as she wiped her tears, her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a smear piece. It was a video file from an unknown sender. Hands trembling, Emily pressed play. The grainy footage showed Daniel and Vanessa in his office. The extinguisher attack. Her heart leapt. Proof. Real proof. But before she could react, a new message flashed on the screen. "If you want the full video, meet me tomorrow at midnight. Come alone." Midnight in Chicago was a strange mixture of silence and chaos. The city hummed with distant traffic, but in the abandoned warehouse district where Emily found herself, it felt like another world. Dark, desolate, forgotten. She parked her car near a rusted chain-link fence, her hands trembling as she gripped the steering wheel. Her phone screen glowed with the message again. "Come alone. Midnight. Dock 17. She looked down at her belly, whispering, "This is for you. For us." Then, gathering every ounce of courage, she stepped into the night. The warehouse loomed ahead, its broken windows like hollow eyes. Emily's footsteps echoed on the cracked pavement. Every sound, the scrape of gravel, the drip of water from a leaky pipe, set her nerves on edge. She pulled her coat tighter around her, her breath visible in the cold air. "Emily." The voice came from the shadows. She froze, her heart racing. A figure emerged slowly, hands raised in a gesture of peace. The dim light revealed a familiar face. It was Peter, the young IT technician from Carter Holdings. His expression was tense, but his eyes burned with determination. "You?" Emily whispered, both relieved and wary. "You're the one who sent the video?" He nodded quickly. "I couldn't stay silent anymore. I saw everything on the footage before Daniel's people wiped it. I knew they'd come after me if I kept a copy, but I couldn't let them get away with it. Not after what they did to you." Emily's eyes stung with sudden tears. "You don't understand. This could ruin you. Why risk everything for me?" Peter swallowed hard. "Because I've seen what Daniel does behind the curtain. He doesn't just cheat and manipulate, he destroys lives. I used to think keeping quiet was safer. But then I saw you in that hospital bed, and I realized silence makes me just as guilty." He pulled a flash drive from his pocket, pressing it into her trembling hand. "This has the full video, not just the attack, but the audio too. Daniel threatening you, Vanessa laughing about it. It's everything you need." Emily clutched the drive to her chest, hope surging through her veins like oxygen. For the first time, she had real proof. But Peter's expression darkened. There's more. Daniel knows someone leaked the footage. He has people looking for me. If they find out I gave it to you. His voice trailed off, fear flickering in his eyes. Emily stepped closer, her voice soft but fierce. Then we protect each other. You're not alone anymore, Peter, and neither am I. For a brief moment, the weight lifted. Two unlikely allies united against a common enemy. But the reprieve didn't last. The sound of tires screeching tore through the night. Headlights flooded the dock, blinding them. A black SUV skidded to a stop, doors flying open. Men in dark suits poured out, their movements sharp and purposeful. Peter's face went pale. It's them. Emily's grip tightened on the flash drive. Her heart thundered as the men advanced, their footsteps quick and heavy. One of them shouted, "Hand it over, Mrs. Carter. You don't know what you're dealing with." Emily backed away, clutching her belly, her other hand gripping the drive like it was life itself. Peter grabbed her arm, whispering urgently, "Run." And as they turned toward the shadows, a gunshot cracked through the night, echoing off the steel walls of the warehouse. The gunshot shattered the night. Emily's scream caught in her throat as sparks flew from the metal beam just inches from her head. Peter pulled her down behind a stack of shipping crates, his chest heaving, his eyes wide with panic. "They'll kill us if they find us," he whispered. Emily clutched the flash drive tightly in her palm, her knuckles white. She felt her baby shift inside her belly, the weight of responsibility crushing down harder than fear. This wasn't just about her survival, it was about her child's. The sound of heavy boots echoed across the dock. "Split up, find them," a man barked. Peter grabbed Emily's hand, and together they crawled through the shadows, weaving between crates and rusted machinery. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her body screaming with exhaustion, but she forced herself to keep moving. Another gunshot rang out, this one closer. Wood splintered just above Peter's head. He yanked Emily through a narrow passageway, their bodies pressed close against the cold steel walls. "This way," he urged, pointing to a side door half hidden in the shadows. They sprinted for it, Emily's legs trembling beneath her, each step like running through quicksand. They burst through the door into an alley, the bitter night air biting at their skin. Tires screeched again, another black SUV blocked the end of the alley. Emily froze, her heart pounding, trapped. Peter scanned frantically. There, he pointed to a fire escape ladder just above them. Without hesitation he knelt, cupping his hands. "Climb." Emily's chest heaved. "I can't, I'm pregnant." "You can," Peter urged fiercely. "For the baby, Emily. Go." She swallowed her fear and stepped onto his makeshift boost, grabbing the cold metal rungs. Her arms screamed in protest, but she climbed, each movement fueled by desperation. Peter scrambled up behind her. Bullets pinged against the brick wall as the men spotted them, shouts filling the alley. Emily clung to the ladder, shielding her belly, whispering, "Please, God, don't let them hit me." At the rooftop, Peter hauled her up and dragged her across the gravel surface. They ducked behind a ventilation shaft, both gasping for air. For a moment, silence returned, broken only by the pounding of her heartbeat. Emily turned to Peter, her eyes wet with terror and relief. "I can't keep running like this. They'll never stop. Daniel will never stop." Peter pulled the flash drive from her trembling hand, his expression grim. "Then we make sure this sees the light of day before he can silence us. Once this is public, he can't bury it again." Emily nodded, hope flickering amid the fear. But before they could catch their breath, the distant whine of a drone cut through the night air. They looked up, red lights blinked against the sky, hovering closer. Peter cursed under his breath. "He's upgraded. They're tracking us." Emily's chest tightened. The drone's camera lens locked on them, its mechanical buzz growing louder. "Emily," Peter said urgently, his voice trembling. "If they catch me, you run. Don't look back. Save the baby." Emily's hand shot out, gripping his arm. "No, we get out of this together." The drone descended lower, its spotlight flooding them in harsh white light. Shouts rose from below as men began climbing the fire escape. And just as the first pursuer's head appeared over the rooftop edge, a sleek black car roared into the alley below, its headlights blinding, its horn blaring. The driver's voice echoed through a megaphone. "Emily, get down." The rooftop shook under the echo of shouts and the drone's shrill buzz, but the booming voice from below cut through everything. "Emily, get down." Emily's heart leapt. She knew that voice. Michael Lewis. The men on the fire escape hesitated as the black car's doors swung open. Michael stepped into the alley, his presence commanding, his expression deadly serious. Beside him was Andrew, calm as ever, eyes sharp with calculation. In a swift, practiced motion, Michael aimed a high-powered flashlight directly at the pursuers' eyes, blinding them. "Emily, now!" Peter helped Emily down the ladder, her legs trembling as adrenaline surged through her veins. The moment her feet hit the pavement, Michael guided her into the car, his hand steady on her shoulder. "You're safe now," he said firmly. The SUV roared away, tires screeching as the hired men scrambled to regroup. Inside the car, Emily clutched the flash drive to her chest, gasping for breath. Her wide eyes met Michael's. You found me. We were already looking." Andrew said from the front seat, his voice calm but resolute. "We knew Daniel would push things this far. We weren't going to let him win." Emily's throat tightened, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. For the first time, she didn't feel entirely alone. Back at the Lewis brothers' office, a sleek high-rise overlooking the Chicago skyline, they ushered Emily into a private conference room. The city glittered beyond the glass windows, indifferent to the war raging in her life. Michael leaned forward, his eyes burning with conviction. "Emily, listen to me. You're not crazy. You're not weak. Daniel is orchestrating a full-scale smear to erase you, but now we have proof." He tapped the flash drive in her trembling hand. "This changes everything." Andrew placed a folder on the table, sliding it toward her. Inside were spreadsheets, financial records, wire transfers, all exposing irregularities in Daniel's empire. "We've been quietly investigating him for months. Fraud, embezzlement, offshore laundering. He's been sloppy. If we connect this with the video, we don't just expose him as an abuser, we bring down his entire empire." Emily stared at the documents, her chest rising and falling rapidly. The thought of dismantling Daniel's power filled her with both hope and fear. "But he'll fight back. He'll come after me harder." Michael's jaw tightened. "Then let him. For every move he makes, we'll be 10 steps ahead. That's what we do. We don't just fight battles, we win wars." Emily exhaled shakily, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't want revenge. I just want to protect my baby." Andrew's expression softened. "And that's exactly why we'll win. Daniel's greed makes him reckless. Your strength comes from something bigger. Love. That's power he'll never understand." Silence settled over the room, heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. Emily wiped her tears, her trembling replaced by a flicker of resolve. For the first time, she felt like she wasn't merely surviving, she was preparing to fight back. Michael straightened, his voice cutting through the tension. "Tomorrow morning, we start. We leak financial documents to the press. We prepare the video for court. And Emily, you'll have to testify. Not as his wife, not as his victim, but as the woman who stood up to him." Emily nodded, her hand resting protectively over her belly. "I'll do it, whatever it takes." A rare smile crossed Andrew's face. "Good. Then Daniel Carter's empire ends here." But just as the plan settled, Emily's phone buzzed again. She glanced down, and her blood froze. A live video feed filled the screen. Her nursery at home, the crib, the toys, and a masked figure standing in the middle of the room, holding a lighter. A message appeared beneath the feed. "You have 24 hours. Sign the papers or watch it all burn." The next afternoon, Emily sat in the Lewis brothers' office, still shaken by the live video feed of her nursery. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the masked figure, the flickering lighter, the silent threat that her baby's sanctuary could be reduced to ashes. Michael and Andrew were already working with private security, but Emily's nerves were frayed to the breaking point. Then her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a masked threat. It was Daniel. The text was startlingly tender. "Emily, please, I've made mistakes. Can we meet? Just the two of us, for the baby's sake." Her stomach turned. It didn't sound like the Daniel she had faced in that office, sneering while Vanessa attacked her. This message sounded like the man she had once loved, the man who had promised her forever. Michael read the text over her shoulder, his jaw tightening. "It's a trap," Andrew added coolly. "Classic strategy. When public pressure mounts, he'll play the remorseful husband. If he can't scare you, he'll lure you." Emily's hands shook as she typed back. "Where?" The reply came instantly. "Our favorite cafe. 1 hour." Despite the warnings, Emily felt a tug inside her chest. Maybe it was foolish, maybe it was reckless, but part of her needed to see for herself. Needed to look Daniel in the eyes and know whether there was even a shred of the man she once loved left. An hour later, Emily walked into the cafe where she and Daniel had shared countless mornings before his empire consumed him. The smell of roasted coffee beans wrapped around her, bittersweet and heavy with memories. Daniel sat at their old corner table, no Vanessa in sight. He rose when he saw her, his eyes soft, his smile gentle. "Emily," he said, his voice low, almost breaking. "You look tired. Sit, please." She hesitated before lowering herself into the chair, her hands resting protectively on her belly. Daniel reached across the table, his hand brushing hers. "I've been wrong. I've been cruel. I let my ambition blind me to what mattered most. You are family." His voice cracked with practiced vulnerability. "I don't want to lose you, Emily. Not like this." For a moment, her chest tightened. He sounded so convincing, so sincere. But then she remembered Vanessa's laugh, the extinguisher's hiss, the smear campaigns. She pulled her hand back, her voice steady. "Words don't erase what you did." Daniel's expression faltered, but only for a second. He nodded solemnly. "I know. That's why I want to make it right. I brought new documents, fair ones. They'll protect you and the baby, I swear. Just sign them, and we can put all this behind us." He slid an envelope across the table. Emily stared at it, her pulse pounding. The papers looked official, stamped, legitimate. But every instinct screamed that beneath the polished legal jargon was another trap. Her eyes met his, searching. "And Vanessa?" Daniel's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed soft. "It's over. She meant nothing. You're my wife. You always have been." The lie was smooth, but Emily had learned to read him. Behind the softness, there was calculation. Behind the apology, there was strategy. She pushed the papers back toward him, her voice trembling but firm. "No, I won't sign anything. Not until the world knows what you really are." For the first time, Daniel's mask cracked. His eyes darkened, his jaw clenched. But then, just as quickly, the tender husband returned. He forced a smile. "Think carefully, Emily. Refuse me now, and you'll regret it." And as he leaned closer, whispering the threat in her ear, a camera flash exploded from outside the cafe window. Michael and Andrew had been watching, capturing every second of his performance. The next morning, the city woke to headlines that set the internet ablaze. Leaked photos, Daniel Carter's crocodile tears, public reconciliation, or calculated manipulation. Every major news outlet carried the same story. Images of Daniel leaning across the cafe table, whispering to Emily with false tenderness, filled the front pages. But the most damning photo showed the envelope he had pushed toward her, his hand gripping hers just a little too tightly. Talk shows dissected the images. "This doesn't look like a man trying to repair his marriage," one host said. "It looks like a businessman cornering his wife into signing something." Social media erupted. "Stand with Emily" trended within hours. Thousands of women shared their own stories of coercion and abuse, linking Emily's struggle to their own. In her apartment, Emily scrolled through the flood of comments, tears springing to her eyes, not from sadness, but from an unfamiliar emotion. Support. For the first time, the world wasn't calling her crazy. They were calling her brave. Michael sat across from her, his laptop open, monitoring the storm he and Andrew had set in motion. "Daniel wanted to use the media to bury you. Now it's turning against him. People are questioning his character. Investors are nervous." Andrew entered with a stack of printed reports. "Stock is down 6% since this morning. Shareholders are demanding answers." He placed the papers on the table, his expression calm but sharp. "This is the beginning of the end." Emily exhaled shakily, her hand instinctively resting on her belly. "It feels like I can finally breathe. But he won't stop, will he?" Michael shook his head. "No. He'll fight harder. Cornered men are dangerous." And he was right. Across town, Daniel slammed his fist against his office desk, the veins in his neck bulging. Vanessa sat nearby, scrolling angrily through her phone. "They made you look pathetic," she hissed. "A weak husband begging for forgiveness." Daniel's face twisted with rage. "Michael and Andrew are behind this. They think they can humiliate me? No, I'll destroy them. And Emily, I'll make sure she regrets ever defying me." Vanessa leaned closer, her voice sharp. "Then let me handle her. You focus on the money, the company. I'll make sure Emily disappears from the equation permanently." Daniel studied her, then slowly nodded. Do it, but make it clean. No mistakes this time. Back in the Lewis brothers' office, Emily paced nervously, her phone buzzing non-stop with calls from journalists. What if this isn't enough? What if the court still sides with him? Andrew folded his arms. The video Peter gave us changes everything. Once it's released, there's no coming back for Daniel. Michael added, his tone steady, but we need the timing to be perfect. One wrong move and he'll spin it again. For now, the world is on your side. We keep pressing until he cracks. Emily nodded, her resolve strengthening. Then let's finish this. But as she spoke, her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a reporter or a supporter. It was a private message. No name, no number. She opened it. A short video clip filled the screen. It showed Peter, the technician who had risked everything for her, tied to a chair, blood on his face. A distorted voice played over the clip. You have 48 hours to hand over the drive, or he dies. Emily's scream echoed through the room, her hands trembling so violently she nearly dropped the phone. And for the first time, Michael and Andrew realized, the war wasn't just corporate anymore. It had turned lethal. The video clip burned into Emily's mind like a brand. Peter, bloodied, eyes wide, bound to a chair in a dim room, mouth gagged, the camera shaking as someone spoke through a cheap distortion filter. 48 hours, hand over the drive, or he dies. Then the frame cut to black. Emily dropped to the floor, the phone slipping from numb fingers. The room spun. She clutched her belly as if she could physically shield the life inside from the violence raining down around them. She had wanted proof. She had fought for truth. Now that truth had become a weapon, pointed at the only person who'd helped her risk everything. Michael and Andrew were already in the conference room when she staggered in. Michael's jaw was tight. Andrew's face was a study in controlled fury. We need to act fast, Michael said, without preamble, slamming a fist on the table. The kidnappers know the drive exists. They have leverage now. Emily's voice was a whisper. If I hand it over, if I give them what they want, will Peter live? Will it stop? Her eyes searched their faces for certainty she knew wouldn't be there. Andrew didn't flinch. We can't trade evidence for a life. If we do, we lose everything. The press, the legal case, the chance to put Daniel away. He'll bury the drive and keep pulling strings. He'll never stop. He leaned forward, fingers steepled. But we also can't lose Peter. Michael's plan came out in clipped sentences. We set a trap. We appear to negotiate the handover decoy drive, decoy location. Our security team will be in position with the police ready. If they try to hurt Peter, we move in and extract him. We'll also trace the signal to get the people who ordered this. Emily's stomach nodded. And if they kill him before you get there? The question shredded the air. Silence settled like a stone. Michael closed his eyes for a breath. Then we've failed him, he said softly. But if we try to bargain without a plan, we'll hand Daniel the key to silence every whistleblower. He'll vanish the evidence forever. Emily slid to a chair, trying to breathe. The impossible calculus of winning or losing pressed on her. One life now, many lives later. She thought of the baby, tiny, relentless, and of Peter, who had risked his job and safety for her. She thought of the Lewis brothers, who could bring down empires but not rewind time. We have one edge, Andrew said suddenly. We can make the handover public. Live stream it. We'll force them into the light. They can't execute him on camera without everything exploding. Nathan's people think in private hits, not in public spectacles. He looked at Emily. But it's risky. They could move Peter to a location we can't reach quickly, or they could use him to lure us into an ambush. Michael's phone buzzed. He read the message, then turned to Emily. They want you to come alone. Midnight. The address will be sent in 10 minutes. Emily's heart hammered. Alone. No backup, no plan. The thought of walking into a trap made bile rise in her throat. But Peter's face, so pale, so vulnerable, blocked out reason. I'll go, she said before she could think. I'll give them a decoy. Anything to keep him alive. Michael grabbed her hand, hard enough she could feel the pressure through her skin. You do not go alone. If you insist on being part of this, we go with you, but we'll stage it differently. Decoy you, decoy drive, encrypted file that appears authentic. Then we flip the signal and trace them as they take it. Emily nodded, grateful for the plan and terrified of the cost. Do it. Save him. They prepared with military precision. 2 decoy drives, falsified metadata, a live feed rigged to funnel to the police and multiple media outlets, and a team of plainclothes operatives shadowing the handover route. Emily changed into nondescript clothing, jeans, sneakers, a baseball cap, anything to make her blend. She felt like a ghost in her own life. At 11:40 p.m., her phone buzzed. A new address popped up, an abandoned textile warehouse on the city's riverfront. The message read simply, "Bring the drive, alone, midnight, no cops." Emily tightened her jacket, the decoy drive warm in her pocket, and stepped into the black night, Michael and Andrew following at a distance, invisible as shadows. She approached the warehouse, the river wind whipping her hair. The metal door was ajar. A single light burned inside, a square of yellow in the vast darkness. Emily's pulse thundered as she pushed the door open and stepped into the cavernous space. A voice echoed from the shadows. "Welcome, Mrs. Carter. We were wondering when you'd arrive." The night air was sharp against Emily's skin as she stepped out of the car, her heart pounding like a war drum. The warehouse loomed ahead, its broken windows and rusted siding giving it the appearance of a monster crouched in the dark. She clutched the decoy flash drive in her pocket, praying Michael and Andrew were close enough to intervene if things went wrong. But she never made it inside. A van screeched around the corner, its headlights blinding her. Before she could scream, two masked men leapt out. One grabbed her arms, the other pressed a cloth against her mouth. The bitter smell filled her nose as the world spun, colors blurring into black. When Emily awoke, the cold concrete floor pressed against her cheek. Her wrists and ankles were bound with heavy tape, and a single bulb swung overhead, casting cruel shadows. The air reeked of gasoline and mildew. Panic surged as she realized she was no longer in control. She turned her head and gasped. Peter was slumped against a pillar a few feet away, still tied, his face battered but alive. His eyes fluttered open. "Emily." His voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. "You shouldn't have come." Her throat tightened. "I couldn't leave you." Before either could say more, the heavy metal door screeched open. Vanessa stepped in, her heels clicking like gunshots. She wore a smirk that made Emily's stomach twist. Behind her, two men in suits carried canisters of gasoline. "Well," Vanessa drawled, crouching down to Emily's level. "Look at you. Still fighting, still clinging to that pathetic little drive. Did you really think you could outplay Daniel and me?" Emily's voice was raw but steady. "This isn't about winning, it's about the truth." Vanessa laughed, cold and sharp. "The truth? Sweetheart, the world doesn't want truth. It wants a story, and our story, the powerful CEO and his beautiful partner building an empire, will always drown out yours. You're just a footnote." Emily's pulse thundered. She wanted to fight back, to scream, but the ropes bit into her wrists. Vanessa gestured to the men. "Douse the place. If she won't hand over the real drive, then she burns. And no one will mourn a hysterical pregnant wife who accidentally set a fire." Gasoline splashed across the floor, the pungent fumes choking the air. Peter struggled against his bindings, rage in his eyes. "You'll never get away with this," he shouted, his voice cracking. Vanessa smirked. "Watch me." Emily closed her eyes, her heart racing. The baby kicked, a desperate reminder that she wasn't just fighting for herself. She whispered through clenched teeth, "You won't touch my child." Vanessa leaned in close, her breath hot against Emily's ear. "Oh, darling, that's exactly what I plan to do." At that moment, a faint buzzing sound filled the room. Vanessa frowned, glancing around. Emily's heart leapt. She recognized it. A drone. The Lewis brothers' drone. They had found her. Vanessa's eyes narrowed, rage flickering across her face. "They're here," she hissed. "Finish it, now." One of the men struck a match, the flame flickering dangerously close to the gasoline-soaked floor. And just as he bent down to drop it, the warehouse doors exploded open, blinding light and armed figures storming inside. The warehouse doors burst open with a thunderous crash, metal shrieking as armed figures and tactical gear stormed in. Flashlights sliced through the smoky air, blinding the men who had been preparing to ignite the gasoline. Shouts erupted, boots pounded, and the scene dissolved into chaos. "Drop it! Drop the match!" a commanding voice roared. The thug holding the flame panicked, stumbling backward as bullets ricocheted off a steel beam overhead. He dropped the match, but one of Michael's men kicked it away before it could touch the gasoline-soaked floor. Emily's chest heaved with relief, tears flooding her eyes. She could barely breathe, the ropes cutting into her wrists, but she knew her brothers had come. From the doorway, Michael stepped into the light, flanked by two operatives. His eyes locked on Emily's, and for a moment she saw the boy she remembered from years ago. Protective, unshakable. "Get her out," he ordered. Two men rushed to cut Emily free. She gasped as circulation returned to her hands, clutching her belly protectively. Peter groaned beside her as another operative sliced through his bindings. Vanessa's shriek pierced the air. "You idiots, stop them!" She lunged toward Emily, but Jonathan intercepted her, his hand clamping around her wrist with unyielding force. "Game's over," Jonathan said coldly, his eyes filled with controlled fury. Vanessa spat in his face, her mask of glamour replaced by raw hatred. "You think you've won? Daniel will bury all of you." Jonathan shoved her back toward one of the operatives, who restrained her. "We'll see who buries who." Meanwhile, one of the thugs pulled a gun, aiming straight at Emily. Time seemed to slow. Her body froze, her heart thundering in her ears. But before he could fire, Michael tackled him to the ground, the weapon clattering across the floor. A sharp punch to the jaw left the man unconscious. Emily's legs trembled as she tried to stand. Michael was at her side in seconds, steadying her. "I've got you. You're safe now." Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "You came." "Of course we did," he said fiercely. "We'll always come." The operatives secured the warehouse, dragging the subdued thugs into a corner. Vanessa screamed curses, thrashing against her restraints, but no one paid her any mind. Peter, still weak but alive, looked at Emily with weary gratitude. "I told you not to come. But thank you." Emily squeezed his hand. "You saved me first. We're even." Outside, the wail of approaching sirens grew louder. Michael had already called the police, knowing the media storm this arrest would ignite. As the flashing red and blue lights washed over the warehouse, Jonathan leaned close to Emily. "This isn't just about survival anymore. We're taking Daniel down." "Completely?" Emily nodded, her voice raw but resolute. "For the baby. For all of us." The police stormed in, taking custody of Vanessa and the remaining thugs. Reporters were already gathering outside, tipped off by an anonymous leak. The story would be everywhere by morning. Michael wrapped his jacket around Emily's shoulders as he guided her outside. The cold night air hit her lungs, but for the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe. But as she stepped into the waiting car, her phone buzzed. A new message lit up the screen. A photo of Daniel standing outside a courthouse with his lawyers, grinning smugly. The caption read, "Nice rescue, but tomorrow, it's my turn." And Emily realized the real battle wasn't over. It was only about to begin. The courthouse buzzed with tension the next morning. Cameras flashed outside as reporters swarmed, their voices overlapping in a frenzy of questions. "Emily, is it true your husband tried to kill you?" "Mr. Carter, how do you respond to the kidnapping allegations?" The circus was exactly what Daniel wanted. Inside, the marble corridors echoed with footsteps as Emily clutched her brother Michael's arm for strength. Jonathan walked ahead, his briefcase in hand, his face set in stone. The courtroom doors opened, and the smell of polished wood and stale paper filled the air. Daniel was already seated at the defendant's table, flanked by a fleet of high-powered attorneys. He looked calm, collected, even smug, his designer suit immaculate. Vanessa, though formally charged, sat behind him with her own lawyer, her eyes sharp with defiance. When Emily entered, Daniel's lips curled into a smile. He leaned toward his attorney, whispering something that made the man chuckle. Emily's heart pounded, but she kept her chin high. For her baby. For herself. For the truth. The proceedings began with Daniel's lawyers spinning a polished narrative. "Ladies and gentlemen of the court," the lead attorney boomed, "my client, Daniel Carter, is not a monster. He is a husband, a businessman, and a victim of an elaborate smear campaign. His estranged wife, Mrs. Emily Carter, has fabricated claims of abuse in a desperate attempt to ruin him financially and emotionally." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Emily's hands tightened into fists. The attorney gestured dramatically toward Emily. "This is a woman struggling with pregnancy-induced psychosis. She has no evidence, no credibility. What she does have is resentment and the backing of two opportunistic CEOs, Jonathan and Michael Lewis, who see this as their chance to dismantle a rival." Michael's jaw clenched. Jonathan scribbled notes furiously, ready to counter. When it was their turn, Jonathan rose smoothly, his presence commanding. Your Honor, opposing counsel claims my sister has no evidence. That is false. What she has is courage. What she has is a video, footage of Daniel Carter and Vanessa Reed attacking her with a fire extinguisher, mocking her, and threatening her unborn child. Murmurs erupted across the courtroom. Even the judge leaned forward, interested. Daniel's attorney scoffed. A conveniently found video, likely doctored. We all know technology can fabricate anything these days. Jonathan didn't flinch. We anticipated that argument, which is why the file has been independently verified by 2 forensic experts. Its authenticity is beyond dispute. At that, Michael stood, holding up a printed still from the footage. Daniel's face twisted in cruelty as he crouched beside Emily. Gasps filled the room again. Cameras clicked. The judge raised a hand to quiet the chaos. Emily's eyes welled with tears. For the first time, the truth wasn't just in her heart. It was laid bare for everyone to see. But Daniel wasn't finished. Rising from his chair, he addressed the court directly, his voice smooth. This is all very theatrical, but let me remind you, my wife has a history of emotional instability. Records from her college years show she sought counseling for anxiety. Is this the woman you would trust over a respected CEO? Emily froze, her past twisted and weaponized. She felt the walls closing in, shame crawling up her spine. Michael leaned close, whispering fiercely, "Don't let him own the narrative. Speak your truth." The judge's gavel struck. "Mrs. Carter, will you take the stand?" Emily's breath caught. This was it. No more hiding, no more silence. She rose slowly, her hand trembling as she placed it on her belly, and walked toward the witness box. And as she swore her oath, Daniel leaned back in his chair, smirking, as if he still believed the game was his to win. The courtroom was silent as Emily placed her hand on the Bible and swore her oath. Every eye followed her as she lowered herself into the witness chair. The judge adjusted his glasses. "Mrs. Carter, you may begin." Emily's breath trembled, but she lifted her chin, refusing to look at Daniel just yet. Her hands clasped tightly in her lap, fingers brushing her rounded belly, grounding her. "My name is Emily Carter," she began softly. "I was Daniel Carter's wife. For years, I believed I was loved. I believed I was safe, but I was wrong." The jury leaned forward, listening. Michael gave a small nod of encouragement from the gallery. Emily's voice shook as she continued. "At first, Daniel was charming. He made me feel like I was part of his world, like I mattered. But over time, he changed. The late nights, the secrets, the lies, and then Vanessa." She swallowed hard, her eyes brimming. "The night I went to his office, I wasn't there to fight. I wasn't there to cause a scene. I went because I was scared. I knew something was wrong. And when I walked in, I saw the truth. The man I loved was gone." Her voice cracked, but she pressed on. "Vanessa picked up a fire extinguisher and sprayed me in the face, in the stomach. I couldn't breathe. My baby, our baby, kicked so hard I thought I would lose him. And Daniel." She finally turned, locking eyes with him. Daniel just watched. He crouched beside me and whispered that no one would ever believe me, that he would destroy me. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Emily's tears spilled freely now. I begged him to stop, but the man I thought was my protector had become my executioner. She pulled a tissue from the stand, her hands trembling. "When I woke up in the hospital, I realized the truth. If I didn't fight, I'd lose everything. Not just my home or my name, but my child. My baby would grow up without a voice to defend him. So I found mine." The courtroom was so silent that Emily could hear her own heartbeat. Even the judge leaned forward, his expression softened. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I am not perfect. Yes, I've struggled with anxiety. Yes, I've cried when the weight was too heavy. But none of that makes me a liar. None of that means I deserve to be beaten, humiliated, and erased. I am not crazy. I am not weak. I am a mother, and I will not let Daniel Carter take that from me." Tears glistened in the eyes of some jurors. A woman in the gallery dabbed at her face with a handkerchief. Even hardened reporters shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Jonathan rose smoothly. "No further questions." The judge nodded. "Defense may cross-examine." Daniel's lead attorney strode toward the stand, his voice slick with false sympathy. "Mrs. Carter, emotional testimony is powerful, but emotions don't prove facts. Isn't it true that you sought counseling in college for instability?" Emily met his gaze head-on. "Yes, I sought help because I believe in healing. That doesn't make me unstable. That makes me strong enough to face my pain. The attorney faltered for a moment before trying again. And isn't it possible you exaggerated what happened in Daniel's office? After all, no one else saw it except Vanessa. Emily's lips curved faintly, a spark of strength breaking through. Oh, but someone did see it, and you'll see them too. The gallery erupted in murmurs. Daniel's smirk slipped for the first time. He leaned forward, whispering furiously to his attorney. And just as the judge called for order, the courtroom doors burst open. Peter, bandaged but alive, stepped inside, holding a folder of evidence. All eyes turned as Peter walked down the aisle of the courtroom, each step echoing like a drumbeat. His face was battered, a bandage above his brow, but his spine was straight and his grip steady on the folder in his hands. The silence was so heavy, it seemed to press against the walls. The judge cleared his throat. "State your name for the record." "Peter Hayes," he answered firmly. Jonathan rose from the plaintiff's table. "Mr. Hayes, can you tell the court why you're here today?" Peter opened the folder and pulled out several documents. "Because I saw the truth. I worked in IT at Carter Holdings. I was the one tasked with handling the surveillance footage from Daniel's office. I watched the video of Vanessa spraying Mrs. Carter with the extinguisher. I heard Daniel threatening her. And I saw them laugh while she was on the floor, gasping for air." Gasps spread through the courtroom. Daniel shifted in his chair, his face hardening, while Vanessa's eyes widened in panic. Peter continued, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Daniel ordered the footage destroyed. He brought in outside techs to wipe the servers. But I couldn't stand by. I made a private copy." He handed a flash drive to Jonathan, who loaded it into the court system. The screens lit up. Grainy but clear, the video played for all to see. The extinguisher hissed. Emily's cries filled the room, and Daniel's voice was unmistakable. "No one will believe you, Emily. By the time I'm done, the world will think you're the crazy one." The jury watched in stunned silence. A woman on the panel covered her mouth with her hand, shaking her head. Jonathan let the footage finish before saying simply, "No further questions." The defense scrambled. Daniel's attorney rose, sweating. This could be fabricated, but the judge cut him off. "Enough. The video has been authenticated by independent experts. Mr. Carter, Miss Reed, do you have any defense for this?" Daniel leapt to his feet, his composure finally cracking. "This is a setup. Emily is manipulative. She turned my own employees against me." His voice rose wild and frantic. "I built everything and she wants to take it all away." The judge slammed the gavel. "Order." But Vanessa broke before he could. She stood, her face pale, her voice shrill. "It was his idea. He told me to do it. He said Emily was in the way, that the baby was in the way." The courtroom exploded in noise. Shouts, gasps, reporters scribbling furiously. Daniel spun on her, his face contorted in rage. "You stupid." "Enough," the judge roared, gavel striking again. "I've heard enough." Silence fell. The judge's voice was heavy, final. "This court finds Daniel Carter guilty of assault, coercion, destruction of evidence, and conspiracy. Vanessa Reed is likewise guilty of assault and conspiracy. Sentencing will be delivered immediately." Emily closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. She felt Michael's steady hand on her shoulder, Jonathan's quiet nod beside her. The weight she had carried for so long seemed to lift all at once. Daniel was led away in handcuffs, his furious protests echoing uselessly. Vanessa sobbed as she was dragged out behind him. Emily placed her hand gently on her belly, like whispering, "We're safe now." When the judge dismissed the court, the gallery erupted. Supporters clapped, reporters shouted, but Emily only heard the soft rhythm of her child's heartbeat in her memory. Outside the courthouse, the sky was painted with golden light, as if the world itself was offering her a new dawn. Michael stood tall beside her, Andrew at her other side. Peter approached quietly, giving her a small nod of respect. Emily breathed deeply. For the first time in months, she wasn't just a survivor, she was free. She turned to the crowd, her voice soft but clear. "No woman should ever be silenced. No mother should ever be forced to choose between her child and her dignity. Today proves that the truth cannot be buried forever." The cameras captured her words, sending them across the nation. And as Emily walked down the courthouse steps, hand on her belly, the future stretched before her. Not as Daniel's victim, but as her own story's hero. Trolivet contento vu king eldenoi. All right, my friend. So the story has finally come to a close. And if you're still here with me, listening all the way to this moment, I know something in this journey touched your heart in its own way. Emily's pain, her strength, her fight for truth, it's not just her story. It's a mirror for all of us who have been broken, doubted, or silenced. The Stoics remind us, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca's words tell us that fear and shame grow stronger when we let them rule our minds. But Emily showed us the opposite, that courage grows when we act, even while afraid. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's exactly what Emily did. She couldn't control Daniel's cruelty, but she chose to rise above it. So let's take this lesson into our own lives. The truth can be hidden for a time, but never erased. Justice may stumble, but it always finds its way. If you felt something here, like a spark of hope, then like this video, share it with someone who needs courage today, and don't forget to subscribe. Our stories, our strength, are always better when we stand together. The morning began like any other, inside the glass tower of Carter Real Estate Holdings. The lobby shimmered with polished marble, the kind of place where secrets hid behind smiles and business suits. Emily Carter, 6 months pregnant, climbed the steps slowly, one hand resting on her belly, the other clutching a file. She wasn't there for business. She was there for her marriage. Her husband, Daniel Carter, was the man everyone admired, CEO, visionary, at the perfect example of power. But behind closed doors, Emily had begun to see the cracks, the late nights, the evasive calls, the perfume on his suits that wasn't hers. Today she wanted the truth. When she entered his office, her heart froze. Vanessa Moore, Daniel's former employee, sat casually on the desk, her hand resting on Daniel's shoulder like she already owned him. Emily's voice trembled. "Daniel, what is this?" He didn't flinch. Instead, his eyes darkened. "This is reality, Emily. You're nothing but dead weight. Sign the papers, or things will get ugly." Emily's throat tightened. "I won't let you steal everything. Not from me, not from our child." That was when Vanessa's smile curved into cruelty. She grabbed the bright red extinguisher from the corner of the office and, with a hiss that filled the air, sprayed it straight at Emily's face and stomach. The icy blast knocked her back, her lungs seizing, her baby kicking violently inside her. She fell to the floor, coughing, gasping for breath, her vision blurring from the suffocating cloud. Daniel didn't move to help. Instead, he crouched down beside her, his voice low and venomous. "No one will believe you, Emily. By the time I'm done, the world will think you're the crazy one." Emily's body trembled, tears streaming down her cheeks, not from the pain of the attack, but from the devastating realization the man she had loved was now her executioner. And in that single moment, she knew, if she didn't fight back, she and her baby would not survive. The sterile smell of antiseptic clung to the air as Emily lay on the stiff hospital bed. The hiss of the oxygen machine was the only sound breaking the suffocating silence. Her skin still tingled with the burn of the extinguisher's icy blast, her chest heavy, her throat raw. But the deepest pain wasn't physical, it was inside, where betrayal carved wounds no medicine could heal. Emily's hand trembled as she touched her belly. Relief washed over her when she felt a faint kick. The baby was still alive. Tears rolled down her cheeks, silent, endless. She whispered, "I'm so sorry. I couldn't protect you." The nurse entered briefly, checking her vitals, but the woman's eyes held a flicker of judgment. "Try to rest, Mrs. Carter," she said curtly, before disappearing again. Emily knew what that look meant. The story was already spreading. On the small TV mounted on the wall, a breaking news segment ran. Sources claim Emily Carter, wife of real estate tycoon Daniel Carter, caused a disturbance at her husband's office this morning. Witnesses say she attacked him and his assistant in a fit of jealousy. Emily's blood ran cold. Her lips parted in disbelief. The world was already against her. Daniel had moved faster than she imagined, twisting the truth into a weapon. She reached for her phone with shaking hands, scrolling through messages. Friends she once trusted had sent curt replies. "I don't know what's going on, but I can't be involved." Another, "Emily, I hope you get the help you need." Each word cut deeper than the extinguisher's blast. She wasn't just fighting Daniel, she was being erased, her reputation shredded until no one would believe her cries. Alone, she pressed her face into the thin hospital pillow and wept silently. These weren't loud sobs. They were the kind of tears that drained life itself, the kind that soaked into fabric and disappeared, leaving only the hollowness behind. Hours passed. Night fell outside, the city lights blinking like indifferent stars. Emily stared at the ceiling, replaying the attack in her mind, the coldness in Daniel's eyes, Vanessa's cruel laughter. She thought of the life she had once imagined, a family, a future, love that was supposed to last forever. Now all of it lay shattered, like glass on marble floors. For a moment, she wondered if Daniel was right. Maybe the world would never believe her. Maybe the fight was already lost. But then the baby moved again. Stronger this time, a forceful kick that startled her from despair. Emily gasped, placing both hands protectively over her stomach. And then, through tears, a fragile whisper escaped her lips. "I won't give up on you. I won't let him win." That night, Emily wrote in her journal, each word trembling but determined. "He thinks I'm weak. He thinks I'll break. But I will rise. For my child, I will rise." The room was quiet again, except for the hum of machines, but inside Emily, something had shifted. Pain was still there, deep, aching, unbearable. Yet beneath it, like a spark hidden in ashes, a new strength was beginning to burn. And outside the hospital, a sleek black car waited, its tinted windows hiding Daniel and Vanessa, watching. Daniel's voice was cold as steel. "She survived today. Tomorrow, she won't." Emily returned home from the hospital 2 days later. Her body still aching, her spirit weighed down by exhaustion. The once beautiful Carter residence now felt like a prison. The marble floors echoed coldly under her feet, and the grand staircase seemed taller, harsher, as if mocking her weakness. She clutched her belly protectively, every step a reminder that her child was all she had left. The house was eerily silent when she arrived. No sign of Daniel, no sign of Vanessa. Just the faint scent of perfume lingering in the air. Vanessa's perfume. Emily swallowed hard and forced herself upstairs to the bedroom she had once shared with her husband. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the divorce papers waiting neatly on the nightstand, as if someone had placed them there deliberately. Her heart sank. She didn't need to guess who had left them. That evening, the front door slammed open. Daniel entered, his footsteps deliberate, his presence suffocating. He found Emily sitting quietly in the living room, her journal still open on the coffee table. "Well," he said coldly, tossing his coat onto the chair. "You survived. I suppose hospitals are good at patching up little accidents." Emily's lips trembled. "You call that an accident? Daniel, you let her spray me with an extinguisher. You nearly killed your own child." His eyes narrowed, sharp as knives. "Don't you dare talk about that child like it gives you power. Everything you have, Emily, this house, the clothes on your back, comes from me. Don't forget it." She clenched her fists, her voice breaking. "You can take everything, Daniel, but you will not take my baby." He laughed, the sound cruel and empty. From his briefcase, he pulled another set of divorce papers and slammed them onto the table. "Sign them. Sign them now, and maybe, I'll let you keep custody. Refuse, and I'll bury you. I'll prove you're unfit, unstable, a danger to that child." Do you really think the courts will side with a hysterical pregnant woman who storms her husband's office? Emily's throat tightened. She could see how carefully he had laid the trap. His lawyers, his money, his power. One signature, and she would lose her dignity. No signature, and she risked losing everything. Daniel leaned closer, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "I own the narrative, Emily. The world already believes you're crazy. All it takes is one slip, one word, and you'll never see that child again." Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Her voice trembled, but carried defiance. "You don't own me, Daniel. Not anymore." His smirk vanished. For the first time, anger flickered in his carefully controlled expression. He grabbed her wrist tightly, pressing her hand against the pen. "Sign it, or regret it." Emily's heart raced, her belly tightening painfully under the stress. The baby kicked hard, as if sensing the storm around them. She stared at the papers, her mind spinning. Was this the moment she gave in, or the moment she began to fight? Her hand hovered over the page, Daniel's grip bruising her skin. She looked into his eyes and saw not a husband, but a predator who would never stop until he had consumed everything she loved. And before she could decide, the doorbell rang. a sharp, unexpected sound that cut through the tension like a blade. The next morning, Daniel Carter walked into the boardroom of Carter Real Estate Holdings as if nothing had happened. He wore his usual immaculate suit, his smile polished, his handshake firm. To the outside world, he was the model CEO, composed, commanding, charismatic. But Michael and Andrew Lewis had known him for years, and something about the way he carried himself that day felt off. The Lewis brothers were more than just investors. They were titans in their own industries, self-made men who had earned respect through grit and integrity. Their company had partnered with Daniel's firm on a multi-billion-dollar development project, and they had tolerated his arrogance for the sake of business. But this morning, as they exchanged polite greetings, Michael leaned subtly toward Andrew and whispered, "Do you see it?" Andrew nodded. "Yeah, his mask is slipping." As the meeting began, Daniel launched into his presentation about expansion strategies. He spoke confidently, clicking through slides, but his eyes darted too often to his phone. His voice carried an edge of strain, and when questioned about financial discrepancies in the quarterly reports, he deflected with rehearsed excuses. Andrew watched closely, his sharp mind cataloging every hesitation. He had built his empire by spotting weaknesses in competitors, and Daniel's veneer of control was cracking. During the coffee break, Michael slipped away from the boardroom and found himself near the reception desk, where a receptionist whispered to a colleague about the scandal. He caught only fragments: Emily, the extinguisher, the hospital. Michael froze. His chest tightened. He knew Emily Carter. Years ago, she had been in their circle during college, bright and kind, always the quiet supporter in Daniel's shadow. The idea of her being in the middle of such a violent story made his stomach turn. When the meeting resumed, Michael couldn't focus. He watched Daniel boast about profits, while knowing somewhere across town, Emily was likely alone, nursing wounds the world refused to see. After the session ended, the Lewis brothers cornered Daniel in the hallway. Andrew's tone was casual, but his eyes were piercing. "We heard a rumor, Daniel. Something about your wife causing a scene at the office. Care to explain?" Daniel's jaw tightened, just for a second. Then the mask returned. "Baseless gossip. Emily's unwell. Pregnancy hormones, you know how it is. She created drama, and Vanessa happened to be there to calm things down. Nothing more." Michael's stomach churned at the cold dismissal. "She's in the hospital, isn't she?" he pressed. Daniel shrugged. "Doctors exaggerate. She's fine. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have another call." He walked away before either brother could respond. Michael turned to Andrew, his voice low and urgent. "He's lying. I saw it in his face. Something happened and Emily's paying the price." Andrew crossed his arms. "If he's hiding something, it's only a matter of time before it unravels. But Michael, what are you suggesting? That we step into his marriage?" Michael's jaw set. "If Emily's in danger, then yes. We can't ignore it." Andrew sighed heavily. "Careful, brother. This isn't just family drama. If we move against Daniel, we're risking $1 billion deal." Michael's voice hardened. Some things are worth more than deals. And as the brothers debated, neither noticed Vanessa watching from the balcony above, her lips curling into a smile as she texted Daniel, "They're suspicious. Handle it."